let me just hit the go live here and I'll let you know. Okay, we're good.
All right, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll start with going around with a roll call and introductions of everyone. I'm Steve Olmos. I'm Assistant Superintendent with the County Office of Education.
Phil Morales, Director of Opportunity at the Academy. I'm sorry, I forgot who I was.
Damaris Brooks, Director of Workforce Development and Organizational Culture.
Joelle Hanson, CTE Coordinator, the County Office of Ed.
Courtney Portal, Collaborative Initiatives Manager with Kids in Common.
And Blanca.
Oh, sorry. Blanca Morales is here, Admin Assistant, OYA.
Okay, and then we do not have Derek here today or Lori. So before we adopt the agenda, a couple changes to the agenda. If we look at the consent, we're going to be taking the consent item off the agenda. We did not attach the minutes for the November 12th meeting. Derek, right on time. Derek, a quick introduction.
Oh, hold on. I'm trying to come on. I lost my mouse. Oh, okay. It's been a lot. Okay, hold on. And my camera's going. I don't know what's wrong with my laptop. Like my camera's sideways, so I have to sit sideways to put my face in the picture. Okay, sorry. Okay. Hi, I am Derek Clark. I'm Derek. Sorry, I am Derek Clark. I'm with Bill Wilson Center. I am a division director here at Bill Wilson Center.
Thank you, Derek. And even though you're sideways, you look good on camera. So you're good.
No, thanks. Yeah, because I see myself in black and white over here. It's a little weird, so I don't know what's going on.
All right, so consent item, we will be taking that off the agenda today. We did not attach the November minutes, so we'll be bringing that back to our next meeting. Also, on information item D, we'll be removing that as well. We actually inserted the terms of office that were incorrect. So we'll go ahead and re-agendize that at our next meeting as well and make sure that's done correctly. So with that, if I can have an adoption of the agenda.
I'll move to adopt today's agenda.
Second.
Thank you, Damaris and Joelle with the seconds. So Phil will go ahead and go into the information item A, Local Control Accountability Plan, Stakeholder Survey for 2020.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Olmos, and thank you, everyone. I'm going to share my screen with all of you. I did post over in the chat the board docs, so you can access.
Phil, I'm sorry, I did skip one area, the public comment. Do we have any people on public comment?
Thank you. Yes, let me check on that. No public comments at this time.
Thank you. Go ahead and proceed with information item A.
Right. So I put over in the chat the link for the board docs, which will also have. I'm sorry. I put over the link for the board docs that has the agenda, which has all the documents attached to that. Oh, Lori is with us. I'll wait for her to. So what I will do, so we have three items now that we don't have the governance council term limits. Two of the items we'll be looking at the LCAP, but just the timeline. I'll have the timeline. We're going to look at the LCAP, the new template, the annual the annual update document, and then we're going to look at the LCAP survey results. And so I want to start there, and I'm going to share my screen with all of you. So we do as we do every year is we send out an LCAP survey. It's a survey that we that actually is a combination of all the different schools. So we have alternative ed, so court school, community school, special education, and OYA. This here is just the information that's related to OYA. The larger LCAP summary is also attached in the board docs if you want to take a look at that. It's a pretty big document, but for us today, I want to just look at the survey results. For OYA, we had 60 participants, 54 of them were students, 3 were staff, 2 parents, and 1 non-responsive. So in the survey, we want to know if specifically about their access to tech devices, internet access, how many students have access to these devices. So 37 students said that they do have access to a personal smartphone. So that's how they have access to in the internet. And we had 38 students that said they had access to the internet using a home computer or a tablet. The rest of the students were kind of broken up from yes, they do have access, 1 saying no. We did a pretty good effort, I believe, in making sure that all of our students, when they start with the OYA, they either have a computer or one of the hotspots. And sorry about that. We've done, we still do a tech distribution out to our students every Tuesday. And one of our navigators provides that for our students. We have still a large inventory of Chromebooks and hotspots that we can still give out to some of our students if they need it. Our next slide is the, we ask our staff or our students to please put what are their top priorities, things that we need to focus on and things that we want to include in the LCAP. And the 2 top priorities, as we look at the top 5, is college readiness and career readiness. And this is actually the same results that we had in the last LCAP we had last year. Then moving down to access to devices for distance learning, social, emotional, and mental health, well-being, distance learning, career tech education, teaching and learning, and home school communication. But these top 4, I would say, is really what we focus on even now. Our college and career work that we do with dual enrollment, our Naviance that we're working with our students, our college liaison, working with our students as they move on to community college. And then we have access to devices, as I just said. We make sure that all of our students have a Chromebook or a hotspot. And then our social emotional health and well-being. We have a full-time mental health counselor, therapist rather, and then we actually hired a part-time mental health therapist as well, because we have many students that, as we went into the pandemic, really asking for services around those areas. This was ratings on school climate, and the top rating was the school staff is helpful, and that always seems to be a top rating from our students. Along with the school provides a welcoming environment, school provides a safe learning environment, schools providing necessary support for distance learning. Those are all really the top high ratings for what we do, all the way down to the school staff is courteous, 74%, which is still high. It's not low. If I'm moving too fast, let me know. Good. And then we asked the students to give us some, it's kind of an open response, provide us some ideas on how we can get better, making our school better. And these are some of the responses. I'm not going to read all of them because there's a few, but I will kind of leave it on the screen. And then ideas of better supporting students and families during distance learning. And then this was a final comment about a particular teacher in OYA. Just kind of props to what this teacher is doing with this, with his students. And yeah, David blanked this out, but can I give this teacher's name or no? Oh no, we're on open. I will not reveal who that is. Okay. Are there any questions about some of the things that you saw on this? Things I can clarify? Derek, I think you're on mute.
Oh, no, I was saying at this time, no.
Oh, okay.
Bill,
So-
I have a question.
Sure.
I think it's a slide about technology. It seems like a lot of your students are using their cell phones to do their work. Is that because they don't have access to a laptop or a tablet? Do they prefer to use the phone? Seems like, I don't know what the platform looks like, but it seems like it'd be hard to do homework on the phone.
Right. Yeah, no, thank you for that question. So we would have to go, we would want to go down, find out and follow up with these students, because what we discourage students from using their smartphones to access SciTech. And so when we do, at the beginning, when we get new students in, we ask them the question, what is your device? What device are you using? And if they say a smartphone, then we immediately say, here's a Chromebook. So this could be a group of students that maybe we just didn't circle back with, or they didn't answer the survey that we had. But we absolutely want to give Chromebooks in hand to students. We tell them, do not use the smartphone. It just doesn't. And also, if a student already has a Chromebook or has a computer at their home, oftentimes it's the only device for the entire family, so they have to share it. So we discourage that as well. So we'll say, do you have one personally for you, not one that you share with the family? And if they say, no, it's when we share, then we give them a Chromebook anyway. And same with the internet access. We want to be sure that they have internet access as well.
So is the percentage off then? Because according to your graph, it's not 70% can access internet using home computer. That wouldn't be 70%.
That's a good point. Let me double check with David. He pulled the data on this.
Courtney, just to provide some more feedback on this, one of the things we actually were reviewing the data about 2 weeks ago as a group in our LCAP team, and that's one thing that really stood out to us as well. And so we really want to circle back and see if kids are actually using their phones to do their work. I know, for example, some of my daughter's friends and my nephew's friends, all they use is their iPhone to do work. They don't use their laptops. It works for them for whatever reason. But we want to make sure that the kids do have those devices in hand. And it also might have been how we asked the question, because in hindsight now we're looking at it and we just said, yes, I have access to the internet, and yes, via smartphone, or yes, via computer. So we probably should have had another question: how do you do your homework, or how do you engage SciTech? So again, that is probably going to be something for next year's survey to kind of tease out that question and get some better data.
Thanks for that, Dr. Olmos. So then the process for getting these devices to students, is it, when they apply, that they take a survey where they tell you what their current access is, and then you reach out to them to schedule time to pick up, or what's that process?
Right. Oh, am I on mute?
No.
Oh, okay. Yes. So basically what happens is that and I was just looking at that process right here. So when a student enrolls with us and they complete their application and also all the documents, they receive an email that asks them, do they have a device other than a cell phone to complete school work? And then the second question to that is, do you have proper internet connection? We collect that before they even start orientation. And based on that information, then we make arrangements or notify the students that say no to one or both of those questions and have them come and pick up a device. So we want to be sure that they have that in hand before they start the course with the teacher.
Okay, that's great. So maybe these are students who were students before COVID hit.
No, we sent this survey out September. Is that correct, Chief? September, October, I want to say, or was it
We started in October.
in
and ran it through
October?
December.
Right. So, and we started the tech distribution in March this
Mhm.
time last year, or when we went into shelter in place. Yeah, Catherine Everett put that together. So it, again, I'd have to go back and see the 37 students,
Mhm.
circle back with them and find out what exactly is, well, they said smartphone. So we want to be sure that they have the computer in hand.
Yeah. When they filled out the survey, did they put their name? Like, do you know who these students are? Can you identify?
I have to get that information from David.
Yeah.
David Venegas, yeah. And I'll check on that percentage, Joelle, because I'm thinking about it. Yeah, you're right. But 54, I want to say 53 or 54 of the students that took it, were students that took this survey. 38, but yeah, I'm not correctly doing the math in my head.
And if you find out, this is just a side, but I'd be curious to know how many of those students are accessing the curriculum through their phone and compare their success with those who have a tablet. Because a lot of times the online curriculum is not designed for smartphones. There's a lot of access issues and things like that. It's a little bit more complicated on a smartphone.
Right. Yes. And I will get that information and share it out, or I can email it out to you. Absolutely. But you're right. And we had many students going into shelter in place that would use their smartphone and actually would say that they had some issues navigating through the curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to give Dells out at that time because we had Dell laptops to provide to students, but it was limited. We only had maybe 38 per site to share to students. So now we have a large inventory of Chromebooks to share.
Steve, can you go to slide number 3 for a moment? Yeah, and what's
sorry.
really interesting is that we're learning even across all school districts in this virtual learning, that social, emotional, and mental health well-being is really up there, basically, where maybe when they were on campus, not so much the services, but it's interesting that since we went virtual, that we're seeing that like a lot, that they're really reaching out to talk to someone, and it could be, because of the learning environment of actually being at home. It could be not connected to like people, but it's interesting, to actually always see that up there now where the students are actually asking for that.
It really is, Derek. And on this slide, what we did is we actually, on the survey, we had probably about 25 items that were on the list to choose from, and also an other where they could put whatever they thought, if something wasn't on the list. And we did ask the respondents to choose their top 5 priorities. And the nice thing about this too is, Phil and I were talking, is this really validates what OYA has been working towards as well, with the college readiness, a career readiness, and really, getting everyone on devices and the social emotional part. And that's been a big focus the last year to 2 years, especially with the college and career readiness. So it's nice to see that, we have some validation there. That's truly what our students want.
Yeah, and to add to that, I was just looking at some of our latest numbers regarding mental health services. And so we have 23 students right now that are in mental health or are being provided services through our therapists. And we've had 135 students served through our mental health therapist. And so we're seeing a huge spike in that need. And it could be a week, just a check-in. It could be a full, session that is provided. There's a number of services that are being provided to students. That's not including the referrals that then are sent out to particular agencies that can provide a little more in-depth services to our students. And then just in terms of tech devices, we have 121 Chromebooks that are currently issued out to students. We have 100 hotspots that are currently issued out to students, and we have 120 Chromebooks in our current that are ready to be checked out, and we have 50 Wi-Fi devices. And so we want to be sure that our students have the devices they need. Wonderful. Okay, I'm gonna.
So with the LCAP, this again is kind of the starting point of our LCAP writing process. So with the LCAP, we are looking at it finishing the LCAP in about 10 weeks. So it goes quickly, but again, it's a tight timeline. The LCAP template was just released from the state earlier this month. And so we're looking at a 10-week writing process. So we're looking at having the LCAP written by the end of April. We have one meeting scheduled in May 13th, so we're hoping to have it done before then. So what we'd like to do is look at scheduling a meeting sometime in mid-April with the governance council, so you could look at the LCAP that we have then and provide feedback for us before we finalize it by April 30th. And so we want to have a finished draft by April 30th, then to fine tune it in the month of May to have it board approved in June. And we do have to have 2 meetings in June for approval, one a public hearing and one an adoption. So that's what we're looking at in the process. Again, this is really going to drive our actions and services as well in our LCAP, looking at the feedback that we received.
So I just put up on the screen the kind of the proposed timeline, and I'm going to work with our school site council and review the LCAP on March 11th. And on March 12th, do an LCAP staff meeting. On the 25th and on the 8th, do some parent advisory meetings, so trying to get some stakeholder feedback. And then, as Dr. Almost said, the LCAP due on April 30th, and the public hearing and the board adoption. But I want to show you what's different about the LCAP this year is the annual update. It's different in that it's actually 3 pieces. So generally in the LCAP update, you would do a review or an update of that particular LCAP year. This year, what is being required is that we do an update or an analysis of the 1920 LCAP, which ended in June of 2020. And this hasn't been populated yet through DTS, because we use DTS to actually pull over all the information, populate the documents, and then we go in and do our updates. So from here, it is as I said, an annual update of the 1920 school year, that LCAP. But then we have to do an annual update of the learning continuity and attendance plan. So the 2020-21 LCP that we rolled out and was approved in October. So we've got the update for the 1920, the update for the 2021, and then we pull it together. And again, I'm sorry, it's blank. We pull it together and we do a full analysis of the 1920 LCAP, the 2021 LCP, and then what are some of the things in both those documents after we do the analysis that we will pull forward and will help us form the new LCAP 2021 to 2024. So it's many pieces to it. And this is the first kind of phase that I will be working on, and certainly will be sharing this with the Governance Council, which is why I think it's important that we at some point talk about having a meeting, a general council meeting, a Governance Council meeting in April. I think it's important to review these documents, but then also to look at the LCAP itself. And again, we're all in the writing phases of this.
Bill? I have a
Yes.
question. If this is due at the end of April and we meet in April, I'm wondering if that's a little, Joelle, are you shaking your head? Because that, I don't know if I'm saying something incorrect or not. I'm just wondering if that's a little too close to the due date to engage us in like a feedback conversation. If there are things that require lengthier conversations. Or is there a plan to have an additional space where we could participate in this process? I'm new to this process, so.
I was agreeing with you, Courtney.
Okay.
That was my question. I'm like, ooh, backwards mapping, that doesn't give a lot of time for feedback.
Right. So
We want it.
we can certainly do, I think right now we have the next Governance Council meeting scheduled for May. I think it's want to say it's May 13th. We can add the additional, meeting in April and still hold the May 13th as another opportunity to provide feedback. Even though it's due in April, I'm sure I'm still going to be doing some revisions in May as well. The April date really is to get it in hand to Dr. Olmos and Dr. Dewan so they can review it. I think the May is still about revise and truly it's really due 7 days prior to June 10th, which is the public hearing, because it needs to go on board docs and do all of that. So I'm saying April, and for me it's April 30th, because if I don't give it then I'll be writing until like June 1st, and I don't want to do that. But I think having an April meeting and focused on the LCAP annual update and the LCAP moving forward, the new LCAP, having that opportunity to give some feedback, look at the document, and then also having another one in May 13th, I think could still serve, the 13th could still serve a purpose as providing some input. Does that make sense? And I can revise the timeline. I could certainly do that as well, so that it makes more sense to everybody. Does that work?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm very new to all this process. I don't know how it all works, so you know better than I do. But this is a kind of thing that I would like to be really engaged with. And so any way that I could support this process, I'd like to be utilized that way.
Absolutely. Thank you, Courtney. One of the other documents, that it's actually included on the board, on the agenda is, so DTS, as I said, has already pulled over some of the data from the 1920 LCAP into the 2021. So in this document here that is available to you, you can certainly take a look at it, and it has already some of the information pulled over. We're not necessarily married to this particular document. We can change it. That's one of the advantages of kind of going into this new cycle of the LCAP, because it's just ending the 3-year. Now we're going into a new 3-year. So we can certainly look at what are the priorities. We already know 2 of them are college and career readiness. Another one is graduation rates is another one that I think, and also let me back up. This is also going to be very aligned with our charter and also our WASC, which all align or all focused on graduation rates, college and career readiness, math and reading assessment and improving the math and reading skills of our students. So this document, when you take a look at it, is not necessarily set in stone. There's a lot of editing that has to happen here, especially when we get down to action steps for this coming or for next year. And goals and action steps is what we really want to spend some time on.
What is the data that you're using for the college and career readiness? And I mean, graduation data is easy as you're doing the cohort, I'm assuming by CalPads, by what's in CalPads, correct?
Correct.
Which is always a year behind, but anyways. And then what's the data that you're using for college and career readiness, since the CCI kind of doesn't capture everything that you're probably doing?
The data. So the data that we're using certainly is what we're pulling from the dashboard. Are you talking about what indicators are we going to?
Well, it doesn't. I just know only because I work with alternative ed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you muted.
Sorry.
That's okay.
A lot of the things that we're doing for alternative ed are not captured in the CCI, like certifications. Sometimes they're not captured in there. So if you're doing certifications, if you're doing, internships and pre-apprenticeship type stuff, or even some of the work-based learning that's on some of the stuff may not be in the things that you check off.
Right.
Right. But
Right.
you're still getting them prepared. It's just that the dashboard doesn't recognize, like they won't recognize food handling service now. They think they've already said that doesn't count towards the college and career indicator because we decided it wasn't rigorous enough. So they took that off the indicator. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't preclude the fact that a student is prepared and has a specialized skill for post high school career that could get them an entry-level position and move further along. So I just want to make sure that whatever you're using isn't just like, I would caution you to only use the dashboard CCI, because I don't think it gives a clear.
Right. No, and I appreciate that, Joelle, because I think you're right. I think there are the indicators or the measures that are in that CCI, dashboard that we have to somehow try to meet, right, and improve. But there's also the other measures that are there that we, unfortunately, how we report that will not be captured in the dashboard, but certainly it needs to be reported out as we are making some, or that our students are meeting our college and career ready, but it's just, how do you report that? How do you share that? In which way? And how are we, what are the methods of measurement that we, absolutely. Yes. And those are some of the measurable outcomes that we want to make sure we put in the LCAP. So having feedback from you would be extremely helpful on when we start putting that goal together.
Plus, it allowed me to gripe about their CCI decision.
I appreciate that. Oops.
So
Okay.
Phil, actually, if you'd go back to item A, Lori's microphone is not working. So she did type in a question in the chat box.
Okay.
So her question is in regards to slide 2. It appears that about 20 students from the survey have very limited access to technology. How are these students accessing curriculum? As a result of this survey from the fall, what was done to address this?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Chief? I'm so sorry. I was trying to find this.
Yeah, so in regards to slide 2, it appears that about 20 students from the survey have very limited access to technology. How are these students accessing curriculum? As a result of the survey from the fall, what was done to address this?
Is she referring to this 28 students experiencing issues with internet? Oh, okay. Well, I think other than just making sure that they have the hotspot devices is one. Oh, Let me go back. I can read it now. Sorry, Chief. It appears that 20 students from the survey have very limited access to it. How are these students accessing curriculum? So so many of the students were saying that their access to they would access the curriculum if they were going. Some of them would go to like the library. Someone would go to areas that they could gain access to the internet, but then be able to access the curriculum through these devices.
Phil, could you address the number of hotspots that were given out, and then also the type of hotspots, because we did use, I believe, 3 different hotspots, because we were finding that some were not very effective in certain areas of the county.
Right. So hotspots. We have 100 hotspots that were given out, and that's how many are still out. Right. We use AT&T, T-Mobile, and Khajiit hotspots. Khajiit had limited data use. AT&T and T-Mobile actually have unlimited data use for students. And we didn't have a whole lot of students complain. They complained more about the Khajiits because, again, they would use the data up and they would have to wait until the next day to use data. But then we were able to pull some of those Khajiits out and replace them with AT&T. So once they had internet access, and it was stable internet access, the curriculum, accessing the curriculum wasn't that difficult, except if they were using a smartphone, then it became difficult to navigate through that curriculum. Not so much accessing the curriculum, but navigating through it, which could be access. When I talk about accessing, I mean logging on, that type of thing. So what we tried to do, again, was when we started to move into, okay, if you have a cell phone or a smartphone, we don't want you to use that device. We want you to use a Chromebook. If you have it, let's get you a Chromebook. And it's either you come and pick one up. I think some of our navigators were able to drop them off. Now, did we get all students? It doesn't look like. So we need to do it again and maybe do another survey and find out, okay, students, if you're using a smartphone to access the curriculum, let us know so we can get you a Chromebook. I can tell you now, basically, when we get new students in, the first question they ask is, what device are you using? Do you have a computer? Do you have a tablet? If they do, then the next question, like I said, is, okay, is it solely for you or are you sharing that device? I hope that answers your question, Lori.
So this conversation is making me think about when we were trying to transition Career Labs to a virtual platform, and the Career Labs team put together a really thorough questionnaire about tech access.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not already using that or use that to ask these questions, that might be something to look back at. Because even the question, do you have proper Wi-Fi? I don't know what proper Wi-Fi means. And so, with Career Labs, what they ask is, are you able to stream videos without any issues? And that means that, you have good enough Wi-Fi. And so might want to look back and compare those 2 surveys. Maybe
right.
More detailed information.
Right. And I know what's happening is like those initial questions is then triggering us to go to actually pick up the phone and go a little deeper with students. Yes, but you're right. We'll take a look at the 2 surveys. One of the things, yes, we'll take a look at the 2 surveys.
Yeah, because then you could even, you can go dive deeper in the curriculum itself as they're gaining access to, or they have access to it. Is there are particular parts of the curriculum, even though they have internet access, hard for them to, and this will tell you about their internet, so the streaming of videos, the whatever it is because I don't know what the curriculum involves. Can give you more information on the types of interventions, the types of supports students would need, because some of it will be a technical support, right? So increasing their bandwidth if they need an increase in bandwidth, but some of it may be more of just how to maneuver the curriculum, you know what I mean? And then others might be more of an academic support. So I think, I don't know, it's worth looking into, especially when I don't think this is going to go away, even though we go back to, you know, a partial in-person, right? We're going to need to know this information going forward.
Right. And one of the reasons why we did pull back the Khajiit devices was because of some of the curriculum that had videos that they needed to view, and that would then take up majority of the data, and that then the student couldn't continue on because they were out. So we pulled back those Khajiits and issued AT&T devices or T-Mobile devices that had unlimited data use. And so then students, and that was initially when we started when COVID hit and students were doing distance learning, that was a problem. And so we made that adjustment and were able to get students the hotspots that they needed. Okay.
Okay, thank you for going back to that slide, Phil.
Absolutely. That's all I have to report on the LCAP at this point. I know, I'm sorry, it was not a whole lot of information, at least data to look at, but as I start working on it, I certainly will share that with all of you, and would love some of your feedback and input.
All right, Phil, and last item C is retroactive diplomas, AB 1350.
Yes. My computer is just not. Just give me 1 sec, let me find it. Oh. Sorry, everybody, my computer is not cooperating with me right now. Oh, you gotta love technology.
Is it Dr. Dewan's letter?
It is. Do you see, is it there?
I have it. Do you want me to share my screen?
Oh, please. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's
That's
going on
okay.
with my.
Do I have okay.
I can do that right now.
I got it. There you go.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Joelle. So, Assembly Bill 1350 is a bill that came out to support students who weren't able to complete or receive their high school diploma at the end of last year in June. And we were able to make some recommendations to Dr. Dewan, Dr. Almos and Dr. Dewan on 7 students who were very close to graduating, but couldn't complete their graduation. And they were, by close, I mean, they were 5 credits, 10 credits away from graduating, and they had to withdraw from OYA because either they had to work or care for somebody that were, or a family member that had COVID. Just many issues that they had and couldn't complete. So we made our recommendation to Dr. Almos and Dr. Dewan, and they approved our recommendations. And so we were able to give, or we will give, 7 diplomas, what they call retroactive diplomas, to 7 students. And so this is the letter that we will be providing to our students very soon, with a nice diploma, a shadow box, and we want to do something very special to them, either kind of a virtual celebration for them. The students don't know yet, so that's why I'm not going to share the names, so they don't know about this yet. We just got this letter, but I think it really does say a lot about our commitment to students, and the fact that we're able to do this, and many of the all of them were really expressed when we reached out and to find out what was going on and what happened. They really expressed, a sadness that they weren't able to complete, and we're still saying, but I want to come back and I want to do it, but right now I just can't because I'm committed to, providing for my family. So I wanted to share that with you and just kind of celebrate with all of you that we're going to be able to give 7 diplomas to students that deserve it in my mind. And once we give it out, we'll certainly take pictures and I can share that with all of you and I can share the names.
Okay, thank you for that. Was our last informational item. So at this point, if we can have a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Bye.
thank you. And so we'll work on a doodle poll as well to look at our April dates to get that lined up for our LCAP meeting. Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a great
right.
long
See you
weekend.
guys later.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
So Phil and Blanca, are we still live
Yes.
streaming?
Oh, wait. Let me
I'm here.
stand by 1 second.